The Xylos interplanetary space station hung in the void like a massive crystalline spider, its many docking arms extending in all directions to accommodate vessels from across the galaxy. Constructed at the nexus of 7 major trade routes, Xylos served as both a scientific research hub and a diplomatic crossroads where species from thousands of worlds came together in the name of progress and understanding. Deep within the station's scientific quadrant, the comparative psychology laboratory occupied a sprawling complex of rooms, each designed to accommodate the various atmospheric, gravitational, and biological needs of the researchers who worked there. At the heart of this complex sat Laboratory Chamber 7 Alpha, currently configured for what was supposed to be a routine fear response study. Dr. Glax, head of the department, chittered nervously as he adjusted the environmental controls. A member of the insectoid Cthar species, Glax stood nearly 7 feet tall on his 4 rear legs, while his 4 delicate front appendages manipulated the holographic interface with practiced precision. His compound eyes reflected the soft blue glow of the monitors, and the fine sensory hairs covering his exoskeleton quivered with anticipation. "Is the subject secure?" he asked, mandibles clicking with each syllable. Fleep, his amphibious assistant, blinked her gelatinous eyes and checked the restraint readings. "Yes, Dr. Glax," she gurgled, her vocal sac inflating and deflating with each word. "Though I must express concern about the wisdom of proceeding without proper xenobiological clearance. We know so little about this species. Your concerns are noted, Fleep, but this was not a planned acquisition," Glax replied, his antennae twitching with mild irritation. "The transport malfunction that brought this specimen here cannot be reversed until the next solar cycle, and I see no reason to waste valuable research time. Besides, preliminary scans indicate basic carbon-based biology, oxygen respiration, bilateral symmetry. Nothing extraordinary." From a hovering platform nearby, a pulsing orb of light projected the semi-translucent image of a humanoid figure. This was Zorp, the laboratory's artificial intelligence assistant, whose digital consciousness had been programmed with a combined psychological knowledge of 17 galactic species. "I must concur with Fleep," Zorp stated, his voice a perfect modulation of reasoned tones. "The specimen appears to be from Earth, a Class 3 developing world with limited interstellar contact. Our database on Earth biology is incomplete at best, which makes this an excellent opportunity to expand our knowledge," Glax countered, typing final commands into the system. "Now, let's proceed with the preliminary assessment. Activate Chamber 7 Alpha visual feed." The main screen flickered to life, revealing the interior of a sterile white room. In the center, secured to an adjustable platform that resembled a medical examination table, lay a human male. He appeared to be in his late 30s, with a stocky build, thinning brown hair, and the beginnings of what humans called a beer belly. He wore the remains of what had once been a uniform, navy blue coveralls with a faded patch that read Midwest Industrial Maintenance on the chest. And he was awake. Not just awake, but looking directly at the hidden camera, his expression more annoyed than afraid. "Hey," the human called out, his voice slightly distorted through the translation system. "I know somebody's watching. These straps are digging into my shoulders, and this light is giving me a headache. Any chance of dimming it a bit? And I could really use some coffee." Glax, Fleep, and Zorp exchanged confused glances. Subject displays unusual calm despite finding himself in alien surroundings, Zorp noted, beginning the official research log. "No signs of elevated stress response. Perhaps the translation matrix is malfunctioning?" Fleep suggested hopefully. "Perhaps what we hear as coffee is actually a plea for mercy in his native tongue." Glax activated the room's communication system. "Human specimen," he began formally. "You have been temporarily acquired by the Xylos Interplanetary Research Station due to a transporter malfunction. There is no cause for alarm. We are conducting standard evaluation protocols, after which you will be returned to your point of origin." The human sighed deeply. "My name's Kevin Sullivan, not human specimen. I'm a maintenance engineer from Gary, Indiana, and I was working on a substation when your malfunction yanked me off Earth. Look, I get it. Space aliens, probes, the whole nine yards. Can we speed this up? I'm supposed to be on double time after 4, and I'm missing the Bears game. Remarkable, Zorp commented. The subject, Kevin, shows no fear response whatsoever. Heart rate, blood pressure, and cortisol levels all within normal parameters. Begin with standard. Visual stimuli. Glax ordered, his scientific curiosity overriding his initial caution. The laboratory team proceeded to subject Kevin to a series of images typically used to induce fear responses across nearly all sentient species. Predators with bared teeth, scenes of extreme heights, depictions of confinement, and graphic representations of bodily harm. Throughout the presentation, Kevin's vital signs remained stubbornly stable. During one particularly gruesome sequence, he actually yawned. "Are we done with the slideshow?" Kevin asked after 20 minutes. "Because if this is all you've got, I've seen scarier stuff in my company's workplace safety videos." Fleep anxiously consulted her datapad. "Dr. Glax, nothing is registering. Even the universal fear triggers are having no effect. Perhaps audio stimuli will yield better results," Glax suggested, his scientific pride somewhat wounded by this unexpected challenge. For the next hour, the laboratory bombarded Kevin with sounds known to trigger primal fear responses. The hunting calls of apex predators, the screech of metal tearing, the rumble of geological instability, and various frequencies that typically caused intense discomfort across multiple species. Kevin actually dozed off halfway through. When they finally roused him with a particularly shrill burst of noise, he blinked sleepily and asked, "Do you guys get any sports channels up here? Or at least some coffee? It's been a long day." Glax's antennae flattened against his head in frustration. "This is unprecedented," he declared. "Every standard protocol has failed to elicit even the most basic fear response. It's time to proceed to Phase 2. Phase 2, Dr. Glax." Fleep's skin changed to a pale blue, indicating apprehension. "Surely that's premature, without further baseline testing." "I concur with Fleep," Zorp interjected. "The neurofrite alpha compound has never been tested on Earth physiology. We cannot predict." "Which is precisely why we must proceed," Glax interrupted. "This is a unique research opportunity. Prepare the chamber for gaseous introduction. Standard concentration to begin with." As Fleep reluctantly adjusted the environmental controls, Glax addressed Kevin again through the intercom. "Human, Kevin, we will now be introducing a neurological stimulus into your environment. It is a compound designed to temporarily activate your species' fear response centers. This is standard procedure and will cause no permanent harm. Please report any sensations you experience." Kevin shifted uncomfortably against his restraints. "Gas? Like chemical warfare stuff? Is that really necessary?" "It is merely a mild psychotropic compound that targets primitive brain structures," Glax explained. "As I said, the effects are temporary." "Fine, whatever," Kevin sighed. "Just seems like a lot of trouble when you could just show me my credit card bill. That scares the hell out of me every month." Glax nodded to Fleep, who reluctantly activated the dispersal system. A fine, greenish mist began to seep into Chamber 7 Alpha through nearly invisible vents in the ceiling. The three researchers watched intently as the gas spread throughout the room, eventually enveloping Kevin in a thin cloud. Kevin's eyes widened as he took his first breath of the contaminated air. He inhaled deeply, then closed his eyes. The researchers leaned forward, instruments primed to record the inevitable panic response. But instead of screaming or struggling against his restraints, Kevin's face relaxed into an expression that could only be described as nostalgic. He inhaled again, this time more deliberately, as if sampling a fine wine. "Huh," he said finally. "This is familiar." Fleep's skin rippled with confusion. "Familiar?" The compound should be activating amygdala functions associated with intense fear. Kevin continued analyzing the scent. "It's kind of like the steel mill on Tuesdays when they're coming off the night shift. Got that sulfur undertone, but it's really familiar." He took another deep breath and smiled. "Smells like home." The laboratory fell silent. Glax stared at the monitor in disbelief, his compound eyes dilating and contracting rapidly. Fleep's skin had turned a confused, mottled pattern of colors never before seen in her species. Even Zorp's holographic projection seemed to flicker with what might have been the AI equivalent of bewilderment. Data anomaly detected, Zorp reported mechanically. Subject displays decreased stress markers. Recommend sensor recalibration. The sensors are functioning correctly, Glax snapped, his chitinous fingers flying over the controls. Increase concentration by 50%. Dr. Glax, Fleet protested. That exceeds safety protocols for unknown species. Clearly, standard concentrations are ineffective, Glax insisted. Proceed. The mist in the chamber thickened noticeably. Kevin, far from showing distress, appeared to be, settling more comfortably against his restraints. His eyes had a faraway look. This really takes me back, he commented, seemingly to himself. Reminds me of summer evenings when I was a kid. We used to play by the industrial canal until the street lights came on. There was this perfect mix of chemical smells when the wind was right. The plastic factory, the refineries over in Whiting, sometimes that weird fertilizer plant when they were doing maintenance. He chuckled softly. Mom would always yell at us for coming home smelling like toxic waste, but man, it was worth it. Those were good times. Dr. Glax, Zorp reported, the subject's vital signs indicate decreasing anxiety and increased activation in brain regions associated with positive memories and nostalgia. Impossible. Glax's antennae were now vibrating with scientific indignation. Neurophrite alpha contains concentrated pheromonal extract from 17 predator species, synthetic approximations of decomposition compounds, and specific molecules designed to trigger instinctive revulsion. You know what it really smells like? Kevin continued, oblivious to the researchers' confusion. Chemical Wednesday. That's what we called it back home. Every Wednesday, this factory on the east side would do some kind of release. The smell was so bad, they actually sent notes home from school warning parents, but nobody ever did anything about it. After a while, you just got used to it. Kind of miss it now, actually. Fleep turned to Glax, her respiratory membranes pulsating rapidly with agitation. Doctor, I believe we need to research this Gary, Indiana, immediately. Agreed, Glax replied, still staring at the monitor in disbelief. Zorp, access all available interstellar network data on Earth geographical location Gary, Indiana, and compile relevant environmental information. Processing, Zorp acknowledged, his holographic form dimming slightly as processing power was redirected to the research task. Meanwhile, Glax was not ready to admit defeat. Prepare beta-terror compound, he ordered. Maximum safe concentration. Dr. Glax. Fleep's skin turned almost white with alarm. Beta-terror is reserved for military training of elite special forces. It contains synthetic versions of the most potent fear-inducing chemicals known in the galaxy. And yet this maintenance engineer is reminiscing about his childhood while breathing enough neurophrite alpha to send a draconian shock trooper into catatonic terror, Glax countered. We are witnessing something unprecedented, Fleep. Think of the research potential. Reluctantly, Fleep prepared the new compound. In Chamber 7 Alpha, the greenish mist was suctioned away through floor vents, replaced moments later by a thicker, purplish fog that seemed to writhe with its own inner currents. Kevin, who had been happily lost in childhood memories, blinked as the air changed around him. He coughed once, then inhaled experimentally. Whoa, that's different, he remarked, his eyes watering slightly. Strong stuff. Reminds me of that summer when the landfill caught fire and smoldered for 3 weeks. Remember that, guys? They told us to stay indoors, but you couldn't keep kids inside during summer vacation. He laughed. We called it the zombie apocalypse summer because of how the smoke made everything look all end of days. Preliminary data on Gary, Indiana, available. Zorp announced, his holographic form brightening again. Display, Glax commanded. A series of images appeared on a secondary screen, showing a Rust Belt American city dominated by massive industrial complexes. Smokestacks belched colored plumes into a hazy sky. A body of water, apparently called Lake Michigan, showed alarming discoloration near the shoreline. Statistical overlays indicated atmospheric content readings that made even Glax's hardy Kthar physiology recoil. "This cannot be accurate," Fleep whispered, her amphibious skin now a sickly gray. "These levels of pollutants in a habitable zone." According to Earth's own environmental agencies, Zorp reported, this region experienced what humans termed an industrial heyday during the 20th century, resulting in significant environmental degradation. Despite cleanup efforts in recent decades, the area remains heavily impacted by historical pollution. And humans live there? Voluntarily? Glax asked, his scientific curiosity now mingled with horrified fascination. Approximately 68,325 humans as of their last census, Zorp confirmed, though this represents a decrease from historical population levels. Most significant, the region was designated by Earth's own governing bodies as having air quality concerns, environmental justice issues, and legacy pollution challenges. In Chamber 7 Alpha, Kevin was still analyzing the Beta Terror compound with the expertise of a wine connoisseur. "There's layers to this one," he observed. "Kind of bottom note of burning plastic, middle tone of sulfur, classic, and is that a hint of ammonia on top? Reminds me of the subway system after a big rain, when all the industrial runoff gets washed into the tunnels. Man, that smell could peel paint. But after a while, you hardly notice it." "Dr. Glax," Fleep said quietly, "I believe we may have discovered what galactic classification systems would term a death world." "Nonsense," Glax replied automatically, though his antennae drooped with uncertainty. "Death worlds are theoretical constructs, planets where environmental conditions are so extreme that complex life either cannot evolve or must develop extraordinary adaptations." And yet, Zorp interjected, "the evidence suggests that Earth, or at least portions of it, would qualify under standard xenobiological criteria. Consider the human's response to compounds that would incapacitate even a Vorn beast handler. This suggests adaptive capacity beyond anything in our database." Glax chittered thoughtfully. "Zorp, analyze samples from the human's clothing. Let's see what this maintenance engineer considers normal environmental exposure." While the AI conducted this analysis, Glax ordered the final escalation. "Prepare Gamadred. Minimum effective dose only." Even Fleep didn't protest this time, her scientific curiosity finally overcoming her caution. The purplish Beta Terror gas was evacuated from the chamber, replaced by a thin, almost invisible mist that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light, creating faint shadows where there should be none. Kevin noticed the change immediately. His eyes widened slightly, and for the first time, the researchers detected a minor spike in his heart rate. Glax leaned forward eagerly. "That's interesting," Kevin said after a long pause. He inhaled again, more cautiously this time. "This one's complex, kind of like a really bad traffic jam in July, when you're stuck on the expressway and all the engines are overheating. That mixture of exhaust, radiator fluid, hot asphalt, and everyone's cheap air fresheners trying to cover it all up." The minor elevation in his vital signs stabilized, then returned to baseline. Kevin actually laughed. "I once had to replace an HVAC system in an old chemical storage facility. When we cut into the wall, we found this black mold that had been feeding on industrial solvent residue for like 40 years. The hazmat team had to evacuate the whole building, but my supervisor just handed me a paper dust mask and said, 'Try not to breathe too deep, Sullivan.' This smells kind of like that day." Glax sat back in his support harness, mandibles slack with amazement. "He's enjoying it." Preliminary analysis complete, Zorp announced. "I have detected traces of 73 distinct industrial compounds on the human's clothing and skin surface. 35 of these compounds are classified as toxic, carcinogenic, or otherwise harmful under galactic health standards. 17 of them would trigger automatic evacuation protocols on this station if detected in our atmosphere at these concentrations." "And he walks around with these on his skin?" "Every day," Fleep asked, her voice barely audible. "The evidence suggests these represent normal background exposure in his native environment. Zorp confirmed. Furthermore, analysis of residual lung particulates from his exhalations indicates long-term exposure to industrial byproducts, fossil fuel combustion, microplastics, and various metallic dusts. A profound silence fell over the laboratory as the implications sank in. "We need to report this to the Station Command Council," Glax said finally. "This discovery has significant scientific and strategic implications." Within hours, Kevin had been transferred to a more comfortable, biosecure room, though he complained it was too clean, smells like a hospital, and Dr. Glax found himself presenting to the 12-member Xylos Command Council in their high-security chamber. The council members represented the most powerful species in this sector of the galaxy: the crystalline Naran, the gaseous Volix contained in their ornate mobility suits, the massive tentacled Grox, and others. All listened with increasing alarm as Glax presented his findings. So, to summarize, the Cathar scientist concluded, the human showed no fear response to our most potent neurological compounds. Instead, he displayed familiarity, comfort, and even nostalgia. Our analysis suggests that humans, at least those from industrial regions of Earth, have developed a remarkable tolerance for environmental conditions that would be considered lethal by galactic standards. Counselor Thex, a reptilian Soren with emerald scales and slitted yellow eyes, leaned forward. "The implications are disturbing, Dr. Glax. If these humans can withstand such conditions without apparent harm, they could potentially infiltrate secure areas designed to repel normal biological entities." "With respect, Counselor," Glax replied, "I believe we're overlooking the tremendous potential here. Consider the numerous regions of our galaxy currently deemed uninhabitable due to toxic atmospheres or industrial disasters. The radiation zones of Vexor, the chemical wastelands of former Muldarian mining colonies, the acid storms of Thrax, all contain valuable resources or artifacts we cannot access. And you propose using humans as, what, biological drones to enter these areas?" asked Counselor Ziv of the Volix, her voice emanating from her suit speakers as swirls of colored gas shifted within. "Not drones," Glax corrected. "Partners. Specialists. Their unique biological adaptations make them ideally suited for environments that would require extensive and expensive protective measures for our species. It could open up entirely new avenues of research and resource acquisition." The debate raged for hours. Some counselors saw humans as a potential threat to galactic security, a species so hardy they might prove impossible to contain if they ever became hostile. Others recognized the economic and scientific potential Glax had outlined. The most conservative voices called for immediate quarantine of the Sol system until more data could be gathered. Meanwhile, Kevin Sullivan, unaware of the existential crisis he had triggered among the galaxy's elite, was negotiating with his handlers for better accommodations. "Look, I get that I'm some kind of scientific oddity to you folks," he told Fleep during her afternoon check-in. "But if I'm going to be stuck here until your transport thing gets fixed, I've got some requests. Real coffee, not whatever that purple stuff was this morning. Access to some kind of entertainment, sports, movies, anything. And maybe a job. I'm pretty good with mechanical systems, and sitting around is driving me crazy. A job," Fleep repeated, blinking her gelatinous eyes in confusion. "You wish to work?" "Yeah, I'm going nuts just sitting here. I saw that cooling system in the corridor. It's making that whining noise that means the bearings are starting to go. I could fix that for you in about 20 minutes with the right tools." When Fleep reported this conversation to Dr. Glax, the scientist's antennae perked up with interest. The human's willingness to work, combined with his apparent technical skills, added another dimension to Glax's developing proposal. As the Command Council reconvened for its final session, Glax had refined his presentation significantly. He now stood before them with a comprehensive plan for what he called the Extreme Environment Exploration Initiative. "Honorable Counselors," he began, "after careful consideration of both the potential and the concerns raised in our previous session, I propose a limited pilot program utilizing the unique capabilities of our human visitor. Under controlled conditions, We would deploy him to Ethelgard 4, the ammonia-rich moon in the Proxima system, where our automated probes have consistently failed due to atmospheric corrosion. And the human has agreed to this? Counselor Ziv asked skeptically. He has expressed interest in meaningful occupation during his stay with us. Glax replied carefully. I believe we can structure an arrangement that benefits all parties. After another hour of debate, the council reached a consensus. The pilot program would proceed, but under strict supervision and with extensive monitoring. If successful, it could lead to formal diplomatic contact with Earth, a planet previously deemed too primitive for official recognition. When Glax presented the offer to Kevin, the human's response was typically pragmatic. So let me get this straight, Kevin said, scratching his stubbled chin. You want me to go to a toxic moon, collect some samples your robots can't get, and in exchange, you'll upgrade my accommodations, provide Earth entertainment feeds, and throw in some alien tech to take home when I leave? That is the essence of the proposal, yes, Glax confirmed. And this moon, it's safe for humans? By your standards, apparently yes. The atmosphere contains high concentrations of ammonia and experiences regular sulfuric acid precipitation. For most species, it would require extensive protective measures. But based on our analysis of your physiological responses and environmental history, you should be able to function with minimal protection. Kevin considered this for a moment, then shrugged. Sounds like a Tuesday at the Marshall Refinery job site. I'm in, but I got a few conditions, such as the environmental suit needs a coffee holder, non-negotiable. And whatever filtration system you rig up, make it adjustable. Sometimes those masks that filter everything make me feel like I can't breathe right, you know? Too clean. Glax's antennae twitched with amusement. I believe those accommodations can be arranged. 3 days later, a small research vessel descended through the thick, yellowish clouds of Ethelgard 4. Inside, Kevin Sullivan sat in a specially modified environmental suit, checking the seals and adjusting the filtration settings as Fleep had shown him. The suit was more comfortable than he'd expected, lightweight despite its protective capabilities, with reinforced joints for ease of movement and, as requested, a secure holder for his insulated coffee cup. Atmospheric composition is stable, reported the pilot, a 6-armed Vexillion. Surface temperature at landing zone is -47 degrees by human Celsius scale, atmospheric pressure 3.2 times Earth standard. Wind speed minimal. Thanks, Kevin replied, securing his helmet. Any last words of wisdom, Dr. Glax? The Cathar scientist's face appeared on a small screen inside Kevin's helmet. Remember, this is primarily a sample collection mission. The old mining facility may contain valuable minerals transformed by centuries of exposure to the moon's unique atmosphere. Collect what you can, but prioritize your safety. No unnecessary risks. Got it. In and out, grab the shiny stuff. Story of my life. The ship settled onto the frozen surface with a slight shudder. Moments later, the external hatch opened, revealing a landscape that could only be described as hellish. Jagged rock formations stretched toward a sickly yellow sky. Pools of dark liquid bubbled and steamed despite the freezing temperatures. In the distance, the angular shapes of abandoned alien mining equipment protruded from the rocky terrain like the fossilized bones of prehistoric monsters. Kevin stepped onto the surface, feeling the crunch of crystallized chemical compounds beneath his boots. He toggled the external audio receptors on his helmet and heard the faint hiss of corrosive precipitation evaporating on contact with his suit. He took a deep breath through his filtration system, which he deliberately calibrated to allow some of the local atmosphere's scent to come through. He smiled. Not bad at all, he commented over the comm system. Kind of like Mondays near the paper mill, but with less traffic. I can work with this. For the next 4 hours, Kevin methodically explored the abandoned mining facility, collecting samples of strange metallic growths, crystallized compounds, and even some functioning technology that had somehow survived centuries of exposure to the corrosive atmosphere. The native environment, while hostile to most galactic life, seemed almost mundane to him after years of working in some of Earth's most polluted industrial zones. When he returned to the ship with a collection bag full of samples, the Vexillian pilot stared at him in something approaching awe. "The ship's sensors indicate you adjusted your filtration to 30%, the pilot noted, keeping a safe distance as Kevin removed his helmet. "Was that comfortable for you?" Kevin shrugged. "Help me think. Too much filtration gives me a headache." Word of the mission's success spread quickly through Xylo Station. The samples Kevin collected contained not only rare minerals, but also perfectly preserved examples of ancient Proximan mining technology, providing insights into a civilization that had abandoned the moon centuries ago due to its increasing toxicity. More importantly, the mission had proven Dr. Glax's theory. Humans, or at least certain humans, possessed a unique tolerance that made them ideally suited for environments hostile to most galactic species. Within weeks, Kevin Sullivan found himself in the unexpected position of interstellar celebrity. The Toxic Environment Specialist became his unofficial title, and requests for his services poured in from research institutions and corporate entities across the sector. The Command Council, sensing both scientific opportunity and political advantage, began drafting a formal proposal for diplomatic contact with Earth, specifically to recruit more individuals with Kevin's unique capabilities. For his part, Kevin negotiated with a practicality that impressed even the most hardened galactic corporate representatives. He insisted on reasonable working hours, significant compensation in both Earth currency and technology transfers, and, most importantly, a coffee machine capable of producing a decent approximation of his favorite brew. 6 months after his accidental arrival at Xylo's station, Kevin Sullivan stood before a gathering of galactic diplomats, corporate leaders, and scientific luminaries. Dressed in a custom environmental suit emblazoned with both the Xylo's research insignia and a small American flag, he prepared to depart on his 20th specialist mission. This time to the radiation-soaked ruins of Delterra, where an ancient library was thought to contain irreplaceable knowledge of early spacefaring civilizations. "It remains remarkable," Dr. Glax commented, watching from the observation deck as Kevin's ship prepared for departure. "In just half a year, he has revolutionized our approach to extreme environment exploration. The data he's collected has advanced numerous fields of study, and Earth is now on the fast track for formal galactic recognition. All because he found our feared gas comfortable," Fleep added, her skin rippling with amusement. "It's a strange universe," Glax agreed, his antennae waving philosophically. "Millennia of evolution and technological advancement, and yet nothing quite prepares a species for hostile environments like growing up somewhere you need to check an air quality index before deciding whether to open a window." As Kevin's ship disappeared into the depths of space, Glax found himself considering a rather uncomfortable question. Perhaps the best preparation for a future among the stars wasn't building better ships or developing more advanced technology, but systematically ruining your planet in just the right way? It was, of course, a terrible thought, one that contradicted every principle of ethical science and sustainable development. And yet, as he reviewed the latest reports from Ethelgard 4, where a small team of humans from Gary, Indiana, was now establishing a permanent research station, he couldn't deny the evidence before him. Humans called Earth their home. They had evolved there, built civilizations there, and, in places like Gary, had inadvertently conditioned themselves to survive conditions that would kill most other sentient species. It was a harsh adaptation to a self-created problem, but in the grand cosmic scale, it had proven unexpectedly valuable. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of irony after all.